Hey, good evening, everyone. If you could just add right on the chat, where are you watching us from? It would be great. We're starting in exactly 1 minute from now. Amazing. Majd, we're having a diversity. We have from Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait.
I know. I'm checking now the chat. I have another laptop with me here, so
Yeah,
if you see me looking to this side, this means I'm looking to the chat. Hello,
great.
everyone. Welcome.
Okay. So, um, good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you here. And Ramadan Kareem for all. I hope that you had a delicious iftar. صياما مقبولا. I'm sure you all were aching for your coffee, and now you're ready for us. Today, with our esteemed guest, we will be simply talking about a topic that everybody feels its impact. We feel its effect on our health, on the atmosphere, on what we eat, on our health. Something we all know about. But at the same time, maybe we don't know much about it. So, our esteemed guest, Majd, will be talking about it in more details. And please feel free to add your comments. But before I introduce my esteemed guest, I would say that please, those who are watching us on Zoom, once we reach our 1K, which is we're approaching right now, all the visitors will be reverted to Facebook Live and you will be watching it there. So we are live streaming on Facebook as well. My name is Amjad Abu Khlan, and I am from Queen Rania Teacher Academy, and we're glad to host our guest, Majd Fayyad. Majd is a recognized sustainability leader and energy strategy expert in the UAE. He is the founder of MajdTalks, which focuses on raising awareness on decarbonization and sustainability topics. He is featured among the top 50 sustainability leaders in MENA 2023. Wow, Majd, we're proud of you. He has an extensive experience in energy and sustainability with both government and non government organizations. His content includes educational videos, expert interviews, and discussions on sustainability practices, making complex topics accessible to a broader audience. Maybe I forgot to add one thing. Please, those who would like to hear the translation, there is the globe, which is found at the bottom of the bar, at the bottom. Please click on it and click on mute the original language. And welcome, Majd. We would love to hear what you are going to tell us. It's a topic. Maybe we lived it in the past week and say in Jordan, we moved from 4 and 5 degrees all the way up to 27, and today it started dropping. This is our topic for today, and we would love to know more about it from you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Amjad. It's an honor to be part of the Queen Rania Teacher Academy webinars, and I'm very pleased to join you this night. Ramadan Kareem to everyone. Siyam Mubarak. I hope you really had, as echo your words with regards to the delicious iftar. I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for joining us this evening. It's 11. I'm based in Dubai. It's 11 p.m. I'm not sure where you are now. We see we have from Egypt, from the UAE, from Jordan, Lebanon, even Azerbaijan. I've seen it as well. So
Yeah.
thank you all for joining us tonight. Tonight is a very we discuss a very important topic. And this topic is about climate, the role of teachers in climate action. why this topic in particular? You know, as you mentioned, we've seen the changes that are happening in our regions, in our weather. There are some incidents as well, catastrophic incidents related to climate that are happening. And the coming 5 to 10 years are very important in our fight to climate change. The coming 5 to 10 years will define the future of humanity with regards to climate change. And we always talk about the youth being the leaders of tomorrow, the climate leaders of tomorrow, the source of hope. And we usually don't talk about who's going to prepare the youth to step into this leadership position. And here is the role of teachers. And this is why this webinar is titled as Teachers as the Climate Leaders of Today. I see there's someone saying that they can't hear. I'm not sure if there is an issue or you can hear me well, right?
Yes. Please, those who are watching with us, if you can hear us, please put your thumbs up so we can just know that. Perfect.
Yes, they can hear us. Perfect, perfect. Also, we have someone from Qatar joining. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So I'll share some slides with you. And please make sure that you have your comments and any questions you have. We wanted this to be as interactive, as engaging as possible. You can see my slides?
All good, Majd. How about our audience?
Yes, perfect. So in this presentation, we're going to divide it into two parts. First, we're going to talk about climate change. We need to establish a common understanding, common knowledge about climate change, why climate change is critical, and how it's influencing our region in particular, why we need to take urgent action with regards to climate change. That's the first part of my presentation. The second part, we'll discuss why teachers are the foundation of the net zero transformation or for climate change, and how teachers can stay informed on sustainability and climate action. And I've seen one question is asking about how is there a certificate with that. So please stay tuned. I'm going to share many examples of tools and resources that you can check to get certified on climate change. In the second part as well, we're going to discuss how teachers can ignite a sense of responsibility in their students, and at last, a step-by-step guide for teachers to become climate leaders of today.
If you allow me, Majd, on this content, so we can have all our teachers engaged. It's what Majd is trying also to focus on is that we always talk about future. Let's look for the future. But to prepare students for the future, it starts now. So what our guest is trying to show you that how would you start now for a better future? So teachers are very important in this aspect. So this is one of the things that we have to point out. That's why we really care about you, teachers, all around.
Okay. That's a fantastic point, Amjad. I think this is why we're hosting this session today, is that we want to prepare teachers to, first of all, equip students with the necessary knowledge to drive their sense of responsibility, and to go beyond that to be climate leaders. And we'll share how they can do that, how they can pursue it. There is translation in Arabic. I'm sure that the team can send you details. I've seen someone asking about that. So the first part, we want to hear from you. What do you know about climate change? What does the term mean to you? What kind of information? If you can share with us in the chat box 1 or 2 words about climate change. We'll wait for maybe 1 minute. تلوث جوي, so air pollution.
تغير يصيب المناخ. That's good.
تغير يصيب المناخ.
Please, just a second, please, Majd. Those who cannot see the presentation, could you please leave the just exit the Zoom and come back for the webinar, you might see it again. Thank you. For the translation, please, all of you, go to, there's an icon that says more, click on it, and there is the shape of the globe. خليني أحكيها بالعربي. في محل مكتوب عليه بأسفل الصفحة مكتوب عليها مور، اضغطوا عليه، في عندكم شكل الكرة الأرضية، نضغط عليه وبنحول الترجمة مع أخذ بعين الاعتبار إنه بدنا نعمل اللغة الأصلية نعملها ميوت عشان ما أسمع العربي والإنجليزي. Thank you very much.
So, Jad, in the time we got a lot of answers. Climate change is a serious problem. قلة الأمطار والاستمطار الصناعي. There's Aya, a very long answer.
Yeah.
إرهاق مناخي
I
الصوت.
like
Someone saying.
إرهاق مناخي. It's the first time for me to hear that term. إرهاق.
I think this is a good explanation about what's happening, you know. قلة أمطار، تغيرات مستمرة بالمناخ، environmental disasters, global change، احتباس حراري global warming, weather extremes, lack of natural resources,
rising
more frequent and severe weather events, hurricanes, melting, changes in ecosystem, biodiversity.
Look at this غضب بيئي, which is interesting also.
غضب بيئي, very interesting, very interesting. But we want to ask who's the reason, you know, behind that. So these all are great answers. And here I'll share with you the definition of climate change. So climate change isn't just as changes of weather, it's the long-term change in the average weather patterns that define the Earth's local, regional, and global climates. Many say that climate change happens because of natural factors, like sun activity, volcanic eruptions. All of these can cause climate change. But since the 1800s, human activities have been proven to be the main driver. So human activities, in particular burning of fossil fuel, has been the main driver of climate change. And scientists use observations, use computer modeling to understand how the climate is changing. And they monitor key indicators like land temperature increases, the rising of sea levels, I'm sure you know, and all of about that, the ice loss, the frequency, someone mentioned that, of extreme weather conditions such as heat waves, floods, or fires. One of the key indicators, I've seen it also in the chat box as well, the temperature, the land temperature increase. And here we have an animation that was provided by NASA. It shows the change of temperatures throughout the years. And you can see the the Earth is getting warmer. We have more yellow and orange colors. And then when you see after the 1980s, more orange, more red colors, more red until we reach 2024. You can see now it's completely red. So it's very alarming. And actually 2024 is considered one of the warmest year in the human history. You can see the change of temperature since the 1850 until now. And you can see after the 1980, there's an exponential growth of the temperature. Many would say this is a global temperature increase. We're not concerned in our part of the world. Unfortunately, our region is not immune. You can see here the temperature changes in Jordan. I've selected some countries in our region. You can see a similar pattern of temperature changes in Jordan. And Amjad mentioned it.
From 2000
exactly.
And above. That's too much.
Yeah. Also in Lebanon, same pattern. In Saudi as well, same pattern. So this provides a proof that there are changes, and you can see it in patterns. And many people, they deny that climate change exists and is happening. Well, climate change is happening, and we can see it in many figures. And one thing about our region is that our region is considered to be one of the most vulnerable regions to the consequences of climate change. So we will be hit hard by climate change. And this is why we need to act not only on the global level, but also on local and regional level.
Majd, may I ask a question? And this is something that we
Please.
have to think about before we move to this slide, because I think it's directly related. We've noticed in your
Mhm,
previous slides in our region that 2000 onward, there have been a
mhm.
drastic change and uh, an increase in
Yes.
temperature. Could that
Mhm.
be, is there something that happened 2000 onward in that millennium that caused that great change in temperature?
So that's the reason since the 1980s, with the industrial revolution and the extraction of oil and the fossil fuels and the expansion of industries, all of that. So the increase of the greenhouse gas emissions, that caused the drastic increase in and the emissions are increasing, and it's cumulative. That's the thing about emissions. That's why you can see that increase. And that's why we say that human activities are the
Yeah.
main reason behind climate change.
If you allow me, there's a nice reply from Khaldun Jarrah. He says, because of the industrial pollution, problems with the ozone layer occurred and led to a change in weather patterns. Yes, and that is actually good. And there's another answer on Facebook from Rana
Mhm.
Maita. I think it's related to the big change of temperature in the world in compare with last year's. Something
Mhm.
happened in
So
the world. And
yeah,
as you
so
activity.
uh, I want to clarify one thing here, Amjad. Now, when we talk about the global temperature change, there are the weather that happens, the temperature changes every day, and there is this what we call the temperature change of the surface of the Earth. And this is measured throughout the year. It's an average figure. And so this is what we're monitoring here. But the changes in the weather and the temperature is also reflected due to the changes of climate as well. But here we're monitoring the surface, the average surface area of Earth, and this is what's changing in particular. And we're now at 1.3 degrees Celsius above the normal level. And the main issue is that we can't reach 2. If we reach 2 by 2050, that's where climate change happens and the climate crisis happens, and we see more catastrophes and more climate incidents.
Okay. Thank you.
So talking about climate incidents, you all remember last year in Dubai. So last year in Dubai, we've seen the flood in the UAE. The flood in the UAE within 24 hours, the UAE witnessed the heaviest rainfall ever on record. In 24 less than 24 hours, the amount of rain is estimated to be almost and a half a year worth of rain, just in less than 24 hours. And this definitely had a huge impact on the economy, on businesses, disrupting businesses, on schools, on many houses and buildings. Also, you maybe have heard far from home in LA earlier this year with the wildfires in California. Many people would say, okay, these are natural disasters and they happen. But science and scientists are studying the correlation between climate change and the happening of these disasters. And they're finding that these events are more likely to happen because of climate change. So, climate change cannot be denied. We can't deny that climate change is happening. There is enough evidence, and if there's hundreds and hundreds of and thousands of numbers and figures and data that you can check and research that proves that climate change is happening. The
True.
second takeaway from this part for you to know is that our region is not immune. Our region is one of the most vulnerable regions to climate change. So we need to act in our region more, and we will be hit hard.
So, Majd,
But
may I ask a question after you finish the slide? I have a very important question. I'm sure all teachers that are following us would love to ask a
yeah,
question. So I'm going to wait for you to
please
be.
go ahead.
No, first
Yes.
this part, and then we'll ask this question that people are
No,
looking for.
I have have an idea which I end this slide and go to the next slide. So I'll stop here.
Okay. We've been talking about the reasons for climate change, and we talked about
Mm-hmm.
what is climate change in general. But
Mm-hmm.
we as teachers, and I like to say we because I've been a teacher for over 25 years. And what is our role? Lots of people think that climate change is the responsibility of industry people, businessmen, governments, whatever. But as you started your webinar with, teachers have an important role. What is their teacher to effectively incorporate environmental awareness among their
Mm-hmm.
practices? How could they
Mm-hmm.
sustain a proper understanding what is climate change? How could they raise the awareness in the young minds who will lead the future later on? So we would love to hear about this from you.
Definitely. So I have more than 15, 20 slides on that. I've also noticed someone asking about, is this for a scientific lecture? This is not, this is what we're trying to establish now is common understanding about climate change, because there's different perceptions and different wrong perceptions about climate change. So what we're trying to do is establish a clear understanding about climate change, and then we're going to go to the role of teachers. So if you allow me, Amjad, I'm just gonna have two to three slides more, and then I'll jump into the role of teachers. And I'm sure everyone is excited to listen to that part.
Sure.
Um, I think so. We said that climate change cannot be denied. So it's happening. There's enough evidence. Our region, it's not immune. But many think that um, Majd, why we're talking about climate change, and there are many other issues that are happening around us, many more, maybe more important in their opinion. Inequality, women's rights, hunger, many other wars, many other things that are happening in our world. Why we need to focus on climate change? I agree. There are many things happening around our world, but climate change is one of the main factors that will intensify all of the other risks. So addressing climate change is very important. And if you can see the risks analysis done by the World Economic Forum, you'll see after 10 years that the first top four risks will be environmental risks. In addition to inequality, cyber security, misinformation, and all of that. So it is important to address climate change now and in the coming years. There's also important thing to notice that the climate change, as I mentioned, can intensify other risks. All risks are interconnected. So any extreme weather condition, such as a flood, can cause, as I mentioned, the flood in Dubai can disrupt businesses and damage infrastructure, thus causing financial loss. There's also resource shortages, water shortages can cause geopolitical tensions between countries, can also cause war. There's also it will also cause water and food scarcity issues. So what you need to understand here is that climate change will intensify all of the other risks happening, if it's social, geopolitical, political, economic, or other. It will definitely shrink the economy by 20% by 2050. And it's also a public health issue. So more than 200,000 additional deaths due to climate change. Jad, I'm gonna stop here because I have the part of the solution. We talked a lot about what's the picture, what's happening, the change of temperatures, what can climate change cause, but maybe we can take some questions from the audience before we go to the solution.
Yes. First of all, maybe we can just address the because I think Ibrahim uh, just was wondering, is it just for science teachers? It's for everyone. It's, as Majd mentioned, it's directed to all sectors. It's not just for teachers. It's not for science. It's not for anything that is just in the scientific stream. It's for everyone. It impacts over all of our lives. We also have one. Actually, it's not a question. It's something. It's someone on Facebook that says this is a very interesting topic that I would love to increase the impact of this lecture on my students. I'm trying to explain it. So I think we should tell them that the takeaway from this lecture definitely will help you as teachers in your practices. If you have any further questions that we can just simply comment on, there is one in Arabic that says, it says, is it true that the climate change is due to certain plans for other countries مشاريع وخطط لدول أخرى. So what could you comment on this?
So climate change is definitely the cause of, so anything that emits, there is emissions, causes climate change. And we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions here. So any industrial activity, any industry, cement, for example, industry manufacturing or any manufacturing facility. Also, you at your house, you drink water, you use electricity. This electricity is generated at a power plant that emits greenhouse gas emissions. So you are in a way contributing, everyone of us is contributing to climate change in a way or another. There are definitely many sectors that are more intense than other sectors, depending on the country, depending if the country is an industrial country and they have a lot of industries, industry will play a very important role in their emissions. But for us, for example, I'll give an example in Dubai, 80% of the electricity consumption comes from buildings, residential and commercial buildings. So the residential and commercial buildings contribute to 80% of the emissions from electricity. This is where we need to address buildings consumption. So it really depends on each and every country as well. I hope this answered the question.
There are more people that are saying that there are further causes for climate change, like wars and fossil fuel consumption, and which are actually really good reasons for the sudden changes in temperature. I wouldn't say sudden, it took its toll over hundreds of years till we got here. We've been having lots of warnings that something is happening, but it's never too late, is it, Majd? It's never too late to preserve our climate and our environment.
Yeah. Someone saying إزالة الغابات, so true. يعني this is المساحات الخضراء as well, because الغابات and any green spaces and the forests are called carbon sinks. They absorb the carbon. So it's really important because you have emitting industries that are emitting carbon, and you have natural ecosystems that are absorbing the carbon. So إزالة الغابات is definitely one of the reasons as well.
There's someone talking about and fusion, and how would using nuclear energy could increase or decrease the carbon emission, or could decrease the climate change.
So nuclear is a bit tricky because nuclear, from the greenhouse gas emissions perspective, it emits it's much better than natural gas and fossil fuel actually. So nuclear is kind of considered a clean source of energy if we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions. However, there are other issues related to nuclear, and there's also a taboo for nuclear energy. So, for example, I'll give an example. Copenhagen, for example, they don't allow any nuclear power plants, even though if it's completely safe and completely safe to have a nuclear power plant to produce electricity, but it's not accepted socially within people. So there is misconception and about nuclear, but nuclear can be considered one of the clean sources of energy compared to fossil fuel.
But also maybe much the nuclear energy. It has like a dual effect, just like you mentioned. It's not just about being
Mm,
perception, but it does have a dual impact, whether it's good or bad. It has to be weighed in terms of if I use it for electricity generation, what
mhm.
about the emitted gases that would actually be preserved in the environment, or let's say in the atmosphere itself. So we have to balance both ideas together. There's another question. Actually, it's a query from one of our participants saying that how can I or how could this webinar help me as a teacher? I think
Mm.
we clarified this, and Majd will be talking about the role of the teachers in
Yeah,
all
sure.
this. There. Yep.
Yeah. So Amjad, so I want to ask you, so we have one video about the solutions. Should we postpone it and jump into the role of teachers directly?
Yep. And we
What do you
talk about
think?
the solution later. Yeah. Maybe the solution will
Let's do that. Let's go to the role of teachers, and then if we have time, we can run the video about the solutions. Okay?
definitely. So stay with us so you can see the solution at the end of the webinar. Now we're going to see what
Yeah.
the teachers do.
Yeah. So the solution is clear. So we need to achieve something called net zero emissions by 2050. I have a video here for you, which we're going to run towards the end because this is mainly focused about the role of teachers, and you're all interested to learn what you can do, how you can support your students to learn about climate change. So we'll postpone this part, but this is the solution. If you want to check it, there's the QR code here for MajdTalks on YouTube, and this is a platform that I created to help raise awareness, free educational platform to help raise awareness on sustainability and decarbonization. You can check the video there.
What?
So there is still hope. This is what we want to, if you've watched the video, you will understand that there is still hope and everyone needs to act. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. And this means it's climate change and climate action isn't just the responsibility of our governments or the private sector or academia and research or industries. It's everyone has a role to play. In fact, if we have the best systems in place, imagine you are living in a uh, you have the best air conditioning system in technology in around the world in your house, but you keep it on and you keep it at 10 degrees. So you're consuming a lot of energy. Even though you have the best system, your behavior is contributing to consumption, higher consumption, and thus higher emissions. So this is why everyone has a role to play. And here we're gonna deep dive into the role of teachers in climate action. First of all, what is the role of teachers? Yes, Hamza?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's not just there is still hope, there's always hope. Definitely, there's hope. So we cannot give up. And
Yes.
that's why we have these awareness sessions, because we can always make a change. We have an impact. And you, as teachers, as Majd will show you right now, you have the biggest impact on the future or for the coming generation. And you will see how that's happening.
I completely agree on that. So one thing that I really like about the role of teachers is our teachers are multipliers. So each teacher reaches hundreds and hundreds of students annually, so they can spread climate awareness across generations. So building education around climate is definitely a fundamental role of teachers, ensuring that a future generation and future leaders understand climate change and take informed decisions. Why teachers? Beyond education, teachers create a sense of responsibility. They inspire students. Research shows that when teachers teach confidently about climate change, students feel more empowered to act. So they feel more inspired to take action. Teachers are role models. So if a teacher is passionate about climate change, if they are really passionate about sustainability and climate change, and students can see that, the students see their teachers as role models. So they will definitely, it will spark a kind of commitment towards the environment. And we've seen many scientists and climate leaders credit a teacher for sparking their interest in sustainability and climate action. Fourthly, teachers are the sources of hope. So teachers shape the narrative. So they really shape the narrative. They can focus on solutions, they can focus on the hope, on empowerment, on actions. They shouldn't only focus about the crisis, about these numbers. This is what's happening around the world. It's alarming. This makes students feel anxious and hopeless about their role. But if we focus around on solutions, this is how teachers become sources of hope.
Can I
So
ask
if
you a
you
question?
have any, yes,
Yes.
please.
I just want to stop here and ask a question because you're talking about hope. The question
Hmm.
is, how can teachers balance the need to educate students about the environment and or the environmental challenges with the need to maintain a positive and hopeful vision for the future? So the teachers need to dispart themselves from their emotions. They need to educate the students. They need to talk about the challenges. Do not look very desperate that there's nothing to do, but stay hopeful. Because you said that the
Mm.
teachers are sources of hope. How can they be very hopeful?
Mm. Um, it's a brilliant question, Amjad, and it reminds me of an interview I've done 2 months ago with Dr. Jane Goodall. And Dr. Jane is an international scientist, naturalist, and she made a lot of discoveries in the 1960s. And this was one question I told her. I told her, like, young people feel like kind of hopeless. How can we really instill that kind of hope in them? And she answered, and I really want to use that her answer, um, is by doing something small, like if we advise students and young people to do something small, and this thing will help them see that they are productive and they can create change, whatever it is. If it is cleaning of trash, segregation of waste, creating art from plastic, all of these hands-on activities can really help them see that they can create difference, even though it's very small. But one small action at a time can create hope because they
Amazing.
can build this hope in themselves, and they can build that they have an ability to create difference. This is very important. If I don't believe that I can create difference in this world, I will never create difference. I will limit myself. I need to be sometimes, what can we say about it? Like, I need to be sometimes unrealistic and say, like, I can create the difference in this world, because if I set myself to that belief, I work accordingly.
Well, Majd, we can all feel the passion when you talk about climate change and environmental awareness. So I think that teachers, if they have this particular passion, that same passion we can hear in your voice and how you're talking about it, you just can send a positive impact on your learners. There's a nice question
That's
that says, how can
yes.
teachers and students solve the dilemma of global warming?
Mm. How can teachers, or
How can
what's the
teachers
question?
and students, it's teachers and students, how can they work hand
Mhm.
in hand to solve the dilemma of global warming? I like when they added the word dilemma because there is not
Mhm.
one solution for that. But do you have, and besides, you mentioned what is the role of teachers in climate action. Is there something that we can do right now? Something that tomorrow when they go to schools, come on, we're going to start with one, two, three. Is there anything in mind right now?
I have something in mind, but I will keep it to the slide where I'm going to share some practical examples.
That's great.
I'm going to share some examples based on different subjects of classes. So if we're talking about a science class, an art class, a literature class, so I'm going to share some examples in the coming slides. But what I want to establish here, Amjad, is that I know this is the passion that I'm speaking about. This is what will inspire people. And really, my intention today, beside giving this educational session, is that to inspire. to inspire teachers that they can then inspire their students. We want to inspire, we want to believe that we can create change, you know? And this is, and passion is the foundation to creating that change, you know? Um, I want to add on top of that that the role of teachers, sometimes we think that teachers, their role is just in their school, in their classroom. But their role and their impact goes beyond the walls of schools. And here we've seen that there is research proving that kids are educating their children and educating their parents about climate change. And I've also heard many stories about from families and from parents sharing that their kids are teaching them here in our region how to sort waste, how to reduce plastic pollution, not to litter, from the car. And if you have any examples here, it's quite important to see that the impact of teachers is cascading from the students to their parents and to the community. And at last, I think it's very important for you as teachers to remember that you are not only educators, especially in the Middle East. The influence goes beyond schools. It reaches villages, cities, and entire communities because of our culture. The teachers are viewed as a trusted voice on different important topics within communities. So you can be a player driving climate awareness in your school and towards children, but also towards students, but also you can drive climate awareness in your community. And this is why I want you to see yourself as well as community leaders, to see your impact beyond the school, because you're trusted voice, and we need more trusted voice within our communities.
That's very interesting, Majd,
Um,
honestly. Going beyond
mm,
schools, for example, QRTA always advocates that the teaching and the learning process is beyond walls and beyond schools. And as you
mm,
mentioned, teachers should be respected everywhere because the teacher spends a long time with the students. So the influence of the teachers on the students is much greater than that of the parents.
mhm,
Very
mhm.
minimum stuff could be done. Turn the lights off after you when we're out of the classroom. Don't litter, don't do these
So
things.
true.
Simple things can be done and can be cascaded outside the classroom. And here you came to something that we had a question earlier, which is about how can teachers be leaders for climate? There was a question about it and it came at the perfect timing. So please go ahead.
Someone is mentioning here the three R's: reduce, recycle, reuse, recycle. And now we're expanding that when we talk about climate change to something called 10 R's. So there is redesign, rethink, regenerate. So I invite you also to check that, Rahma. And I can share it with you if you message me on social media as well. So what I wanted to say before is that now teachers are, first of all, they have a very important role in education. They have a very important role in inspiring, in creating hope, and they have important role beyond their classroom. This is why they are the climate leaders of today. And the first step for any teacher who would like to be the climate leader of today is to do um, some professional development. You know, climate change isn't that is a recent topic. So, and building training programs are very important. And here I would like to share with you, I compiled some tools and resources about these programs. And I see someone asking about the link. So if you message me or message Mujad after, we can share the link, or you can screenshot this slide, for example. And here, the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, through the UNCC Learn program, they offer 5 free e-learning courses for teachers on climate change specifically. So these are free courses that you can attend, and completing these courses, you can get also an accreditation as a climate teacher, climate change teacher. And I've seen many teachers here in the UAE and many schools using these courses as well. There are also many online courses. So NASA, for example, provides an educational toolkit for teachers, for educators. If you go to their website, you will see that. So it provides you with data visualization, even lesson plans and multimedia as well. There's another hub that I like called Subject to Climate, which gives you also lesson plans and materials for free for all grade levels. So there are plenty of information available online, plenty of platforms, plenty of training programs that you can pursue to educate yourself about more about climate change. And also, I invite you to check social media platforms such as Facebook and LinkedIn and check for groups such as Teachers for Climate Action, Climate Change Educators, where you can connect with other teachers globally, learn from them, share best practices. All of that is very important. Get inspired what other teachers are doing around the globe. Also, a very nice, I would say, a platform that I created last year on YouTube. Please check it. It's called MajdTalks, MajdTalks. And this platform, I'm doing short videos where I explain sustainability topic. I simplify sustainability and decarbonization topics to everyone. I also do expert interviews around the region, and I do site visits. So there are two buildings that I visited since the launch, the Sustainability Pavilion in Expo City in Dubai and the Sea Institute. And these buildings are brilliant buildings using the best practices and best green technologies, where you can see what other countries, what other institutes are doing to improve their climate performance. It's a very educational platform. Please feel free to check it as well. I can
May I?
also, please, yeah.
There are certain questions. There's a very nice question
Hmm.
speaking. Uh, Someone just asked if do you think that the environmental awareness should have a priority in the field of education, or it can be
Hmm.
let's say like we do at QRTA, we talk about integrative curriculum. So do you think it's going to, should it be a separate curriculum or an integrative curriculum?
Hmm. I'm not a curriculum expert, but I think it should be integrated
Yeah.
across different disciplines, you know?
Mhm.
Um, Environmental education is key, you know? I just heard couple of slides before that the main risks in 10 years will be environmental risks that humanity will face, you know? So we need to prioritize environmental education in all cases. And we've seen it also in universities. There are more options related to energy, renewable energy, to environment, even sustainability, engineering classes as well, focusing only on these topics, master courses only on these topics. So
Yeah.
I think this needs to be translated as well in schools and across different grade levels.
Great. So another question that I would like to ask, do you think that technology can be leveraged to make learning more engaging in terms of knowing about the environmental changes? It's using technology or integrated technology in the classroom is inevitable lately. It's it's
Mhm.
becoming a norm. So do you think it has an added value when we talk about the environment awareness?
Mm. Definitely. So, like just shared, if you remember the NASA change of temperature of weather, like we're using now video. You know, videos nowadays are really very important platforms because they provide you with visuals that you can see and feel and sense, and thus it inspires you. So I think technology in classroom will definitely play a very important role, especially in the use of, for example, iPads or using integrating it with other systems. It's definitely technology will play a very important role. We can see as well with AI now with ChatGPT and how fantastic is ChatGPT. If you're not using ChatGPT, please use ChatGPT, and it saves you a lot of time, honestly. So teachers need to be using these resources.
The problem with ChatGPT now, the teachers tell you, no, 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 we're not going to allow our teachers to use ChatGPT. It's just a debatable subject for now, but definitely AI is actually invading.
Well, depends how they're using it. So for me, I will share my own experience. My
Mm,
ChatGPT is my assistant, you know?
yeah,
With ChatGPT, you need to be the expert. If you are the expert and using ChatGPT as an expert, you understand that you don't trust everything. You need to double check everything, for example, but also you know what's good and what's bad and how you address this issue. But if you're using ChatGPT as the expert, this is where it becomes a bit tricky.
that's great.
This is a personal opinion, honestly.
So, if we're going to just send a few messages to our teachers about
Mhm,
climate change and their crucial role in that aspect, uh, can you just send a couple of messages to consider them as a takeaway where they can build on those messages and start thinking more creatively? Definitely, a 1 hour is not enough to
mhm,
to build that culture of
mhm,
environment awareness, but we can come up with couple of takeaways that the teachers will
mhm,
bear in mind once they leave our webinar and
mhm.
your informative talk. Honestly, Majd.
Yeah. There are many tips that I want to share with them as well. But before we do that, I'll share briefly. Like we shared here, first of all, what you need to do to stay informed, you need to do professional development program. Second, you can check the online resources available and communities available on social media. Use social media for good, you can always follow influencers that are creating environmental content as well. Um, if you want to dig deeper, you can check a credible source called the IPCC, and this is where it provides you more in depth about the science. You don't need to dig deeper, but you can pull the headlines. What's happening around the globe. Is this the warmest year or not? As well. So this is to dig deeper. Sorry. And you can also check what your local government is doing. And there is a very interesting UNESCO program, the Education for Sustainable Development, which aims actually for training every teacher on climate by 2030. Imagine after 35 years. So they have very huge targets and ambitious targets on training teachers. And they also offer training modules. So connecting with UNESCO, connecting with the Ministry of Education in your country is also very important.
Mhm.
Amjad, here I'm going to move into providing some tips and tools into how to ignite a sense of responsibility. So, first of all, if you want to educate students about climate change, I mentioned that there are plenty of resources, even free resources that are available, lesson plans and materials, visualization materials, and data that you can use in classrooms for different classrooms. But to ignite a sense of responsibility in students, this is where it becomes tricky. So delivering the information is very important and how to be delivered. Here, make sure that it is practical. So practical classroom activities can let students lead and contribute to understanding the solution, to understanding the problem, and defining solutions. For example, a science teacher, for example, can conduct with a group of students an energy audit in a school. What's an energy audit? An energy audit, they do a walkthrough through the building. They see what are the devices and equipment that are consuming electricity from lighting, printers, computers, heating, ventilation, and then they do an energy analysis to understand which equipment is consuming more energy and then provide, for example, identify some areas of improvement, provide some recommendations. And these recommendations can be zero cost. You've been mentioning turning off the light, for example. They can provide recommendations which can be also submitted to the administration of the school as well. And this energy audit, because the students participated like in a practical activity, they will take this example with them to home. They will understand their impact on energy and water consumption, and they will also pass these learnings to their parents as well. The second approach here is integration. You mentioned this before, and I think it's very important that we need to integrate climate change and environmental responsibility across different subjects and different disciplines. So, for example, in an English or Arabic class, reading climate fiction or analyzing poems about nature and then reflecting about the role of students, of youth, about the humanity on Earth is important. Another example is debate classes on climate justice. Who's responsible? Who should pay for cutting emissions? Touching on ethics, on fairness. All of these can create that sense of responsibility in students, that passion, that drive for them to take action. Also, in art classes, using creativity, creating posters, creating digital media, videos on social media nowadays. It's very popular with kids. Competitions on using social media for environmental education. That's also something that's also zero cost. You know, we've always been asked environmental education will cost us money. We don't have enough resources to buy equipment to do these programs. But I think there are many tools and platforms that can be used for free to create and drive that sense of responsibility in students.
Thank you, Majd. Thank you very much. I know you have a lot to tell us, and I'm sure we can never be bored from listening to all of your wealth of knowledge about this topic. And what you just mentioned right now, that protecting our environment does not cost us much. It's a mindset and change in practices that could actually yield to a better environment and to preserving the environment for our kids and our grandchildren later on. If I may please just summarize from educational perspective all the points that you mentioned, and they are extremely valuable. To become an environmental advocate as a teacher with your students and in your let's say community, think about project-based learning. Just like Majd mentioned, we have to have hands-on project-based learning, integrative curriculum, STEAM education. STEAM is just a trendy topic that you have to start working, which focuses on everything that Majd just mentioned right now. STEAM says that you're not supposed to be a science or math teacher to have a role in the environment. It's an integration between all the topics. In addition, you need to focus on your PD. PD comes from what do I want, where do I want to go, and how can I go there? That's going to be done through the PD. That's, let's say, the summary from an educational perspective. If Majd would like to add anything to this before we end our valuable webinar.
So, Amjad, can we have 5 more minutes? I'll go very fast with regards to the last 2 slides, but I want to add a couple of points if possible.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So, so you mentioned project-based. I really like this idea, and I also want to say that we need to focus on solutions, solution-focused teaching. So, what can we do about it? How to be part of this the solution, not only doing this is what's happening, these are the temperatures. I see a lot of like images of earth crying, you know, as so we need to focus on solutions. We need to encourage students to think about solutions and design their own solutions. We need to also address climate emotions as well. Many students will feel helpless. We need to be open to listen to them and to help them make one action, as I mentioned before, as Dr. Jane mentioned, to influence, to show them that they can create an influence. Give them the leadership. For example, you can create structures in a class such as a green committee or the energy monitor or the green champion in class, the garden captain, where students will feel that they are responsible, they are accountable to creating difference, maybe helping them in setting up environmental clubs as well. There are many tasks, as I mentioned, that can be connected to home. So you can ask them to do some assignments back to home, interview with a family member about climate change, do a survey in their community as well, a household challenge where they can see how they can reduce their waste or energy use in their house, and then compare it against their peers and their colleagues in class. So these are various methods that you can use. And I will end with this. So, in order to be a climate leader, you need to check different things. First of all, building your knowledge, as Amjad said regarding professional development and continued education, is very important. Focusing on technical is very important, but also focusing on communications. Delivering the information is key and very important. Integrating sustainability into teaching is very important, and we've mentioned a lot of resources for that. Engaging and empowering students, making sure that students take an active role, empowering them, inspiring them to create. Then we move beyond the classroom, expanding your role within the school, forming, for example, a teacher sustainability team where you can share between teachers, joining a teacher group on Facebook as well. You can share with teachers. And maybe you can propose some policies to your school on waste reduction, on energy efficiency. Then step five, connecting with parents and communities. How you go beyond your school gates and, as I mentioned, towards your community. At last, you leverage this success and consider advocacy in your country with ministries to advocate for policy and curriculum changes. And I think one very important thing at last is that we need to be generous. And when we talk about being generous, and I've heard it from a communication specialist that says, when we think of being generous, we think about giving someone money or financial support. Well, generous can also be giving someone your time, you know? But I think what is very important is that we need to be generous with our energy. Put energy, put effort into your work, and put passion into your work, and that's you will see results and you'll inspire others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very, very impressive, Majd, honestly speaking. You focused a lot on they call it the gold triangle, which is school, home, and community, which is the golden triangle. So, on behalf of all of our participants and on behalf of myself, I would like to thank you very much for this fruitful evening. Honestly, the interaction, every single advice that you provided us with was very valuable. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of our attendees and participants. And have a lovely evening and good night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.